And we are live for a new episode of the Electrek Podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintraub. A very happy Seth Wintraub this week because he just posted the review of what might be his next electric car. How you doing, Seth?
Good, thanks.
The Rivian R1S, you had it for a few days at your home, be able to do a full review. And just based on the headline that you put in there, I think you liked it because
Yeah,
is it the best SUV ever made or
I
not?
mean, what's better? It wasn't at my home, but it was near my home. It was
Yeah, yeah,
in
basically.
just upstate New York, and they had like a 2.5, 3 day drive for journalists, and we were on like the second or third wave. So, you know, when we posted ours, 17,000 other people posted their reviews. But I think it's a little bit more special for me because I'm actually on the list, whereas a lot of the other journalists, especially the ones I was talking to there, were just like, what is this thing? I have no idea.
Mm,
And I've been like, following it for
mm.
quite some time. So, and, I'm trying to, I don't know if our listeners know, but we were trying to swap your reservation and my reservation because you had a R1T, but you're in
Yeah.
Canada and they're not going to deliver to Canada for, who knows? Uh,
And I was early enough to have an actual like founder series, so like it can be one
right.
of the very first deliveries. But like you said, in Canada, it doesn't look like it's gonna be anytime soon because fairly enough, Rivian is gonna focus deliveries where they have like service centers and whatnot, like an actual infrastructure to take care of the customers.
Yeah. And there's a lot more places coming online right now.
Hmm.
The place near me is in Brooklyn. There's one in Boston. There's one in Cleveland opening up. So they're kind of spreading all over. So yeah, the R1S. I think we talked a little bit about it last time, but it combines a few like crazy things. So 0 to 60 in 3.0 seconds. And initially I was like, "Wow, wait a minute! This is the fastest vehicle of any kind." Obviously motorcycles are quite fast, but four-wheeled vehicle of any kind under $100,000. And of course, commenters pointed out that the Corvette LT ZR1 package can go 2.9 seconds. And so this is
But it's
slight.
a Corvette.
It's a Corvette.
It's a very small
It's
package
a
vehicle.
similar price as the Rivian, or at
Yeah.
least the one I'm getting. Being an early order,
Mhm.
so 70,000. I think you get a lot more with the Rivian. I think it's fair to say. Um, Top speed's 110. I don't think people are going to go on racetracks with this thing, but I can pull up next to a lot of supercars, and yes, of course, the Plaid. You won't beat the Plaid, but you can beat pretty much every internal combustion engine vehicle, or at least keep up with them in this huge, not huge, but big
Mm.
pickup
Yeah.
SUV. And that's the other thing. Like, I've driven the Hummer and I've driven the Ford F-150 Lightning and I've seen the Silverado. These are all big. I feel kind of like they're cement mixer type vehicles. They just feel like, you're way up in the air. You've got this huge wide thing. Forget about parking in narrow spaces, parallel parking. All that stuff is crazy. You're taking up way too much of the road. This is more like a reasonable size vehicle. I think it's going to fit in my garage. One of the interesting things about the R1S is it's 17 inches shorter, and it's got about a foot shorter, 11-inch shorter wheelbase. And that's been kind of controversial. And a
Then
lot of
then the R1T or
the R1T, yeah.
okay.
So, that's better for off-roading. It's a tighter turning radius. Um, there's some advantages to it, but like, I think a lot of the reason people are buying this is for the third row. I mean, if you don't need a third row, just buy the R1T and put a cab on the back of it, or don't.
Mm.
But the third row is kind of what people want, and there is room back there. It's similar to the Model X in terms of room. And yeah, there's a good picture.
So this is the second row right here.
That's the second row.
So you have like we have a question already from Rose Arroyo. Do they offer captain chairs for the second row? Would you consider those captain chair? No, it's a
No, but
bench.
they're quite comfortable. And
Yeah.
in fact, like so we used to have a Model X. The captain chairs for that were super comfortable, but they didn't have
Mm.
like an armrest, which I think of from like, when I was a kid and we had like a
Mm.
conversion van, like if you're in a
Mm.
captain chair, you want to be like
Yeah.
Captain Kirk,
Mhm.
swiveling around. And those were, they're kind of not as comfortable. So I would actually rather sit in one of these chairs with the armrests on the door and on the in the middle, and they have cup holders everywhere and USB-C ports everywhere. So I would actually take this over captain's chairs, although it was kind of nice with the Model X to be able to get out of the back through the middle, a little bit less
Mhm.
claustrophobic.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So the rear two seats, there is some leg room, but
Yeah, it
more
doesn't
leg.
look big from what I see.
It's not big. You can move the middle. You can see kind of the swivel on the middle row, and you can move that, and you're fine. Like I'm 6 feet, and I was fine back there. I could last a half hour probably very comfortably. I wouldn't want to go on like 3-4 hour
Mhm.
trips back there, but to the airport or wherever you would need to kind of like be in an emergency situation, that's fine. Kids would be fine back there for any amount of time. Um, so yeah, it works. It's a third row. My wife was like, whatever we get next, we're gonna have a third row. So that eliminated a lot of EVs from our possible situation. And then we have a dog. We go to Vermont. This is kind of the perfect situation for her. We couldn't really put her in the back or the gear tunnel of the R1T. So I actually,
Without an animal cruelty charge against you.
right. I was like, hey, like, get up, and she jumped up in there and she like
Mm.
went in and turned around, and I was like, huh, I wonder if she would.
You start to get ideas.
Well, they have that thing where you can see in the back, and she could just stick her head out of the gear tunnel if she wanted
Jeez.
to.
All right,
But
let's not do this at home anymore. Electrek does
yes,
not condemn these behaviors. This is Seth's personal opinions.
right, exactly. So yeah, I don't know. For us, this is a perfect vehicle. It also handles really well. I think a lot of people don't really know.
But before you move on, sorry.
Mhm.
So this third picture here is that. So that's the third. The third row is flattened out, and then you have stuff in there. Is that it? I'm
Yeah,
not
so
sure.
that's the third row up, and you can still put a ton of stuff in there. And I think if
Oh,
you
the third
click,
row is up.
yeah,
Really?
and if you
Okay.
can click on that,
If I
um,
click on it, you don't see it though. I only like it
try
opens
it.
up another image for some
Oh,
reason.
another browser. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that plenty of room back there. So you can probably put, I don't know, 4 or 5 suitcases back
Mm.
there, or tons of groceries or whatever. So it's just a lot of room, and I get the point that Rivian's like, well, we had plenty of room. You know,
Mm.
why should we make it longer? But they have the R1T. Like, just make the exact same frame and make it a little, have like an R1S extended or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have a lot more leg room in the back, and you have more storage, and you're building on the same exact platform as the R1T.
Yeah, that might be a future vehicles for them because they are known now as like kind of a mid-size SUV, well, full-size SUV, mid-size pickup truck. So like if they want to, they certainly have room to go bigger in both cases.
Yeah, and then so you've got an SUV, can take 7 people anywhere. It goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, so it's one of the fastest cars on the
Mm,
road. And then it also goes off road, and it goes
mm,
off road really well. So, you know, on these Rivian trips, we go to places that I would never even consider going. Like, they don't even
mm.
seem like roads. Um, up like a 45-degree angle, down a 45-degree angle, um, just crazy stuff. And I think the point is that anything you throw at it, you're probably going to be all right on. And then of course they had a
Well,
stunt
that's our
driver
own
go.
warranty.
Yeah, you can spin around if you want, but um,
All right,
the
this is not where I.
is the video showing up for you?
No, this video is not turning up for some reason.
It's
But
weird.
this one is, but that's from your
That's the
R1.
R1T. Yeah,
Yeah, R1. Though there's some R1 is there.
yeah, yeah. They had the stunt driver in this thing. It was a crazy. Being inside it, you're just like, can't believe this is a car, not a truck, or can't believe this is a truck, not a car. So yeah, it combines like three like really practical vehicles. It's a sports car, It's a, minivan kind of thing, with all the space in the front, all the space in the back, and it's 3 rows. And it's an off-roader. So you're kind of replacing 3 cars with 1 car here. It's a little bit like the iPhone announcement when Steve Jobs was like, it's an internet communicator, it's a phone, it's a iPod. This is all 3
A lot
things and done
many
well.
many reviewers many reviewers did use that iPhone moment
Yeah.
with the R1S.
So for me, it's like this is the best car I can
But this
possibly
might be
get.
a good opportunity here with since you tested the R1T a month or two ago now, a few months ago, and now the R1S. Have you seen any improvement in the software since then? I mean, in between those two
It was
updates?
subtle. They recently added like a pet mode, and they recently
Mm,
they're upgrading it slowly but surely. We noticed that the navigation in the R1T was a little slower, so I think they're getting the underpinnings a little bit better. Everybody says, and I agree, like, why not just throw Android Auto and CarPlay on this, make it super easy, to have great navigation and great apps and whatever. And they're not doing that. Also, driving 2 Teslas currently, it would be nice to have Netflix and YouTube when you're just
mm.
hanging out, versus there's nothing really
Entertainment
entertaining on
wise,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a nice screen too, like the
Yeah, it's a great
very
screen, and they have that Amazon connection, and there's Alexa, which I'm not a huge fan of, but like throw Prime Video on there, like
yeah. Watch The Boys.
right,
Shout
all
out to
that,
The Boys. Great show.
all that stuff. So there's definitely room for improvement on there, but I think they're working on it. I think it's one of those things where you're like, all right, do I trust this company? Is this company a good company? And it does seem like they care about the right things. They've never built a gas car, so I don't, hate them for that. They're a little bit too in bed with Amazon, in my opinion, but I
Mm,
think that was kind of like, a deal with the devil they had to do.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, as soon as they dingle a little 100,000 orders from in front of them, like, yeah, how can you say no to
right,
that?
exactly.
It just comes with, I don't know what percentage of the company they own. I know it's not a majority, at least.
No, it's like
Yeah,
not it's like around 20% or something.
yeah,
Um, and I'm sure they didn't really want to put Alexa on there necessarily, but
yeah,
part of the deal. So I don't know. I feel really good about the company, really good about the cars. I think, I read some other reviews pretty much across the board. People love the car, the vehicle, was fun. It's crazy fast. I mean, it's 3 seconds in a truck is crazy. Like it feels like it's like, don't go any faster than that,
mhm.
please. So
Like the Mole X does it too, and it's impressive in that too. But the Mole X, even though it is an SUV in functionality, it doesn't look as an SUV as much. Like if you
no,
you keep the Model
Well,
X at the low suspension level, it can pass as like a car. Like you put on, it's like it has a fake mustache kind of car.
right.
It almost passes. This looks like an SUV. Like it's a big SUV.
Yeah, and if you take the Model X, even on like dirt roads, it's like
Well, I
out of
wouldn't
its
do
element.
that. Yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't do that. Yeah, this is still what Rivian calls an adventure vehicle. Here you have a good picture of the back with the third row down, and I assume this here is the lining that you pull towards you, like a tailgate almost.
I think that's just the flat area. I think the lining we pulled off entirely. There's
Okay,
two sliding like holders for stuff. I don't think people are going to use that too often.
these you're talking about.
Yeah. Um, I
But
don't know.
this here, what it looks
That's
like it
the
almost.
that's the door that goes
uh,
down in the back.
Okay, it's a tailgate, like it's a
Yeah,
tailgate door. Okay,
and then you
okay,
know,
yeah, it's closed here. Okay, okay, okay.
but that's a lot of room, and that's with the second seat up, the middle row
Yeah.
up. So, for car camping and stuff, uh, I think this is probably going to be one of the better cars. Again, they should, put some more entertainment features on the screen, but you got a lot more room than you would have in a Model Y, I
And
guess.
here, what it looks like someone coming out of the third row.
Yeah.
So you have a nice step at least to get out.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Getting out of a Ford F-150 or a Hummer EV, like they actually have a step because you
Mm,
need it because you're like, you're basically just parachuting out of the driver's seat.
mm.
Whereas this is like a little bit more reasonable, especially when they have the wheels down. And there's
Yeah, I
like,
guess it's not a step. I guess it's just like just a place to put your foot down so that you can get out. It's not
yeah,
like a step underneath the chassis of the car.
yeah. Um, Yeah, and there's like 15 inches, 16 inches, I think 15.8 inches of travel. So, when it's fully up, you've got a lot of space underneath. And then when it's fully down, you're kind of like, it feels a lot more like a car. And when it's in sport mode, it handles really well. Like I think that might be one of the understated attributes to this vehicle or Rivian vehicles is they really spent a lot of time on the suspension, like the car like sports car like suspension, and you can really like take turns and it really feels like a car than a pickup or a SUV.
Hmm. But once you're like, I know you said it's shorter and everything, but when you're driving the truck, does it feel very much like driving the R1T? Like
Yeah,
in term of your position and in contrast to the road.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting that the only hardware difference before you hit ahead of the B pillar is that there's a chrome around the outside, and then there's the windshield wiper for the rear window, and there's nothing else different
Hmm.
from the back seat forward. So you're basically getting the same car with a slightly different back, and they both weigh the same, but because the R1S is a little bit shorter, it handles a little bit better, I would say, um, in terms of turning and stuff like that. So I don't know. It seems like the best car out there for me right now, and it just checks every box. It's kind of like crazy how many boxes it checks.
It's hard to argue against that.
Yep.
Since we're closing down the R1S review portion, I see a few questions about the vehicle here that you could answer. And when do you expect the delivery?
So I was told initially that I would be getting it this summer, like right about now. So obviously that's not going to happen.
Hmm.
Uh, so I think the latest thinking is early 2023. I'm hoping to get it before winter's over, so we can take it to Vermont a few times. But I don't know it. If they ever let us switch places, then
Yeah.
I think the first deliveries are kind of going out now. These were production vehicles, so um, I think the first ones are going out soon, and they'll probably be on uh, the auction sites for $150,000 for those who do really want one.
Hmm. Yeah, that's thing happening. And do you monitor the Rivian group on Facebook? There seem to be mixed delivery and early ownership reports from new users. Has there been any concerns on that front? I haven't heard from myself.
Yeah, I have heard that they're ramping up, and the new what are they called, guides, the people that are basically the people who interface with the customers, that they're very new, they don't know that like what the answers are to the questions. So I think Rivian, like any other company that ramps up, is having some growing pains, getting some maybe not the greatest uh, people
Hmm.
involved initially. So, but I think that's all growing pains, and they have been, addressing. Like I was at the Brooklyn uh, Service Center. There were, what's that called? The Targa cover,
The,
the thing that covers the bed of the pickup, like keeps breaking on people's. Uh,
the bed cover.
yeah, the bed
Yeah.
cover keeps breaking. So, and they had a couple of them in, and they're supposedly redesigning it or whatever. So, yeah, they're working on it. It's a growing pains thing, and I think they're doing as good as they can. I mean, the thing is, I kind of trust this company. I like the founder. I like the people I've met. So I feel good about,
Mm,
you know, them. They're not trying to screw us over or anything like that.
mhm. Well, that's a good transition to the next news item that we're going to discuss today, which is Rivian released their Q2 production and delivery numbers. And it looks like a significant ramp up in Q2 quarter over quarter. They achieved production of 4,401 units and delivered 4,467 units. Unfortunately, they're not breaking down by models.
I think
Uh,
they're almost entirely R1Ts now.
Yeah, but there has to be some delivery vans in there
Oh,
too,
right. Yeah.
and then yeah, in terms of R1S, R1 T split, obviously more R1T, but still should be a few R1S, and at least in the production, maybe not the deliveries. So for total, that brings up 7,969 units since the production started late last year. And with those results, they are again reiterating their expectation of 25,000 units this year. So this is encouraging. RJ Scaringe, the CEO and the founder, as supply chain and production are ramping up. So he's kind of hinting that they are ironing out some of the issues that have been leading to the limited production. And that would also be in line with them reiterating 25,000 units because if I understand correctly, they produced around 7,000 units so far this year. So that would require a significant ramp up during the second half of the year to hit that 25,000 mark. But yeah, still, like it looks like they produce about twice as many units this quarter as they did last quarter. On a quarter-to-quarter basis, this is pretty good. And if they keep doubling like that, they should be able to hit the 25,000 units. Of course, the big thing that we've been hammering about Rivian, it's still, even though we are confident that the company will survive, and these are difficult times financially, like raising more money can be difficult, especially for the auto industry. Of course, I don't expect Rivian to need to raise money anytime soon. They were still sitting on like $16 billion as of the last quarter, but they're burning through cash like crazy. And if they keep having a negative margin on those vehicles while ramping it up to higher volume, then they're going to burn money even faster. So this is definitely something to keep an eye on, but it's not like red alert time just yet. So let's not panic. It's just something to keep an eye on. Tonneau cover. Thank you, Mr. Turkey Neck.
Yep.
It's a French word. Yeah, I should have known that. It's just I'm not a pickup guy. I want to be. It's just there's not a lot of electric version yet, or for me to have access to. A tunnel cover. I'll remember it, Mr. Turkey Neck. Thank you again. All right. Rivian released their production number, but Tesla did too last weekend, which is they delivered about the expectation following the shutdown of Gigafactory Shanghai. We knew that it was going to be Tesla's first down quarter in terms of deliveries and production for the last at least 2 years, really. I think it was 9 quarters in a row that they had growth quarter to quarter, which is massive, especially in a time that most automakers was the contrary. They saw every quarter going down with the pandemic and then the supply chain issues that followed and everything. So Tesla actually managed to grow, except last quarter, and that was due to the Gigafactory Shanghai shutdown because of the COVID restriction in the cities that were quite important. I mean, they were literally locking down like half of the city at a time. So yeah, Tesla is. That's. Oh, I didn't put the. Okay, let me just go here right there. Okay. Production of 258,580 units. Most of those are Model 3, Model Y, 242,000, 16,400 Model S and X. In terms of deliveries, almost the same for Model S and X, 16,162. And for Model 3 and Y, about 4,000 units less than they produced, 238,533 for total vehicle deliveries of 254,695. 4% of those on lease. And Tesla did note, of course, they kind of have to after like the first down quarter in a while. They had to put a little silver lining in there, and that silver lining is the fact that they achieve a record monthly production for June. So we kind of saw that coming. We reported last month that Tesla had a surprising, significant ramp up in production at Gigafactory, Texas, at the end of the quarter, due to introducing the Model Y long range at the new production facility with the 2170 cells, as the 4680 appears to still be a massive bottleneck for the company. And the next growth phase, the next big growth phase for Tesla is actually going to come when the availability of those battery cells are going to be more higher volume. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Tesla's production and delivery results. Since those delivery results came out, a lot of the headlines this week were about Tesla not being the world's largest electric vehicle producer anymore. BYD took them over, according to all the news media here. Like, it was a ton of reports on that. Like, the just, how it is. Like, when there's something that appears to be big news, like, everybody's just gonna parrot the same headlines nonstop. We kind of did a little report on it, because I don't think it's exactly fair to say that, because if you break down, and this is no like slight on BYD whatsoever. I think BYD is also a very important company in terms of accelerating EV adoption. It's just that they are still, like, they are a older company when it comes to delivering electric vehicles, because they have been mostly delivering plug-in hybrids for a long time. And many people, including all the media that reported that news, that Tesla is no longer the biggest EV producer, uh, classify plug-in hybrids into electric vehicles, which is fair to a degree. It's just, I think it still needs a distinction, because if you look at BYD cells, they reported 638,000 EV cells in 2022, but 314,000 of those, so roughly half of those, were plug-in hybrids. So that's the number they used to beat Tesla, because Tesla, in the first half of 2022, delivered 564,000 units, but those were all electric vehicles, which I think is an important distinction, because most people that are in the know in the industry are aware that plug-in hybrids were a transitional technology, and we are at the very end of that technology right now, of that transition. With it, like, I don't foresee any serious automaker right now releasing a new vehicle program that's plug-in hybrid. Like, that would surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah, and people do like plugins for various reasons. Some people argue that, like, all right, you have a fixed amount of batteries that you have for the year. Wouldn't it make sense to put those batteries in more cars and in smaller packs, and then have hybrid? And that's a pretty good argument to make. But in the long term, we're all going to electric vehicles, so it doesn't. It's not the same thing. But we should also congratulate BYD on
Hmm.
making a ton of you know plug-in hybrid vehicles. It's just the plug-in hybrid is just also has like kind of a bad connotation, because we've had the Prius plug-in, and
There's
it
some bad ones, yeah.
yeah, and I mean
But, and BYDs is not a bad ones too, in terms of, like, they have a significant electric range in them too. It's
right.
not like at 30 miles or whatever.
Yeah. So BYD should be congratulated for sure. But like I think BMW and Prius
Yeah.
ruined the PHEV for
Yeah, I
everyone.
mean, in a perfect world, the plug-in hybrid makes a lot of sense. It's just that, like, you lose a lot of the advantage of electric vehicles, because you you still have an internal combustion engine in there, and everything that breaks with combustion engine, everything that needs maintenance to the combustion engine, everything that all of that is still there. It's a much more complex product, because you have literally two different source of energy, two different powertrains in there. Not two different powertrains, because everything is still powered by the electric motor technically, but you do have a combustion engine trying to generate some power in that, and then the battery. So you have, like, one more thing to break. It's like everything is in double almost. So it's not. It's just not like everything in the all electric vehicle just makes more sense. All right. So while we had Tesla's production numbers, for the first time, we actually get Tesla's solar deployment before the actual monthly, quarterly report. No, not monthly, quarterly reports that is coming. I think it's coming on the 20th or 22nd for Tesla this month. So it's coming quite soon. But Electrek just got their hands on the solar deployment a little bit faster. And it was a record quarter for Tesla in terms of residential deployment in the US. So 71.5 megawatt of solar deployed. Actually, Tesla installed a lot more than that. I think they installed closer to 76 megawatts, but Tesla can only consider solar system deployed once it's also inspected uh, and turned online. I don't know if those two come together, but there's a difference between the actual installation and the deployment. So that's actually a little bit smaller than what Tesla's going to report later this month. I assume it's going to be a record quarter for them overall, because what we have here is just the U.S. residential solar market, which, to be fair, is Tesla's vast majority of installation comes from that. But Tesla also has some commercial installations and a little bit of installation outside the U.S. So the number is always a little bit bigger. But the real important news here, and more disappointing news, is that for the first time we actually have the breakdown between Tesla's solar panels retrofit, so when they install solar panels on the roof, and the solar roof tiles, which Tesla has been marketed as the future of the industry right now. But they've never told us how many of those they install. The only little tidbits of information we had, like a few quarters ago, Tesla said that they doubled the solar installation, but they doubled from what? We don't even know. So terrible information. And even worse information, and a good example of how you have to be careful when you take Teslas and the information that they put out there, is that when they've been talking about this goal of making 1,000 solar roof per week. Um, that was Elon's stated goal since back in 2019, I think. In 2020, they announced that they reached that by producing 4 megawatts of solar tiles in 1 week. So big distinction here is that solar tiles production is not installation. Installation is a giant bottleneck for this product. So it's just the production of the tiles. And also saying that 4 megawatt of solar tiles equal 1,000 roof is a nonsensical statement, because that would assume 4 kilowatt of solar tiles per installation. While we don't have the average of it right now, but it has to be at least double of that, so at least 8 kilowatts, and that's the conservative state, because I see most project between 10 and 12, I think. But that's the project that gets reported and everything. We don't know, like Tesla deploys a lot of project that we don't know about too. So as a conservative estimate, I put 8 kilowatt as the average system. So that would put half of what Tesla is claiming there. But now let's get an actual real deployment number. The real deployment number is 2.5 megawatt for the entire quarter, the entire last quarter. So if you use the number of 8 kilowatt per system again, you end up with about 300 roofs in Q2, or 23 per week. So very, very far from 1,000 per week still. So it shows that there's still major issues in ramping up solar roof from Tesla, um, which is a great product on paper. Like and on houses, it just looks awesome. Like everyone is agreeing on that. It's just that the deployment is not there right now. We knew that Tesla was having a lot of issues in terms of validating the longevity of the product, because when people put that on the roof, they do want the warranty to be accurate and to last for 25 plus years. But Tesla hasn't talked about that for a while, so we thought that was figured out, and maybe it was more actual the installation bottleneck, because these are somewhat difficult to install. Though Tesla made them easier with the V3 that they launched a few years ago. We're already at the version 3 of this product now. Like there was version 1, version 2, now we're at version 3, and we're still at a crawl in terms of deployment. So a little bit disappointing on that front. I'm not gonna lie.
Hmm.
All right. In terms of Tesla ramping up production, we have Gigafactory Berlin, which, as we reported, Berlin looked like it was ahead in terms of the ramp up, ahead of Texas. I mean, but then at the end of June, Tesla brings the 2170 cells back for the long range version, and then boom, production ramps up. So it looks like Gigafactory Berlin is the one falling behind. But now Tesla, or at least a local report in Germany from Build, says that Tesla is gonna shut down the operation at Gigafactory Berlin for 2 weeks, starting next Monday. So this Monday coming up, and they're gonna use that time to upgrade the production and add the third shift to the factory. So this gonna should significantly increase production, though we don't have actual numbers on that. But we knew that Tesla hit the 1,000 units per week, I think, in early June, if I remember correctly. So I would assume that Tesla is at least looking to double that, because they want to be at least at 5,000 units plus. Even 10,000 units would be the more like higher hand of the goal for the end of the year. So
Yeah, I mean, if they're adding a shift, that's if there's two shifts already and they're adding a
mm,
third shift, then it's a 50% increase. And if they're taking 2 weeks off, they'll make up for those 2 weeks in
pretty
a,
fast, yeah,
a 4 week in a month,
yeah.
and then they'll be going beyond that. I mean,
And
that can happen.
that 50% number I just brought up, that's just the actual like man hour that you can put on the line.
Right.
Normally it's exponentially increased production because they can really focus on some of the bottlenecks, because right now let's say that the production is 1,000 units per week, but maybe most station can do 2,000 units per week. It's just that might be just one single station that brings everything down to 1,000 units. So
Right.
if you can mend that up a little bit better, you can significantly increase production fast. All right, moving on. Elon yesterday teased this highly configurable Robovan. He posted on Twitter, and this is how.
We shouldn't say
Real,
this one.
yeah, not this. This is a render from a fan based on the Tesla Semi. If you want like kind of RV Tesla, but so we don't know what it's going to look like. He sort of put the idea on Twitter, but yeah, as someone who reports on Tesla, you have to have kind of an understanding on Elon's mindset when he posts things on Twitter, because a lot of it is just at replies to other people. So someone else suggests something, and he just responds to that. These are, unless the response is very clear and an affirmative and a negative, uh, you have to take them as a grain of salt. But in this case, it wasn't at replies. It was a straight up tweet to people, sort of like gauging people's interest in this. Maybe Tesla should make a highly configurable Robovan for people and cargo. Um, so this is an idea that has been floated around a lot of times. Actually, it dates back to Elon's master plan part 2 for Tesla, dating in 2016. There was a bunch of vehicles that were sort of early announced in those in that master plan, including the Cybertruck. It wasn't named the Cybertruck back then, but there was a lot of things that were announced in that, uh, the Model Y and a bunch of others. Everything was unveiled, not brought to production. Example, Cybertruck, but everything was unveiled in that plan except for uh, a high capacity passenger vehicle that was never unveiled. So that was thought to be a van, or at that time Elon was started talking about like a modified version of the Model X, like using the Model X chassis, but fitting more people than just a third row. I don't know how that would work exactly, because Model X already has a third row, but you felt like you could use the same architecture as the Model X and deliver something that has higher passenger volume. And then the idea came back to in like 2020, when the Boring Company, the Boring Company, there was always a talk of the Boring Company, instead of just using straight consumer vehicle from Tesla inside those loop system tunnels, to use a higher capacity passenger vehicle, um, to make it actually maybe a little bit even more like a subway,
Yeah.
but but a subway that gets you to your end destination instead of having to stop at every stop. The main difference with the loop system. Um, so that was specifically with a project that Tesla had in Southern California, in Ontario, if I remember correctly. In this Bernardino, San, what's that?
Bernardino. Yeah.
Yeah, Valley area, um, to make a loop system there. And one of the officials that were evaluating the proposal did mention at that time that Tesla was working on a 12 passenger vehicle to work with the Boring Company's loop. So this would work with that. And also, Elon mentioned cargo. Elon did also say that Tesla would do a van at one point. Um, just that Tesla was waiting to have enough battery cells to make it happen. Otherwise, they were just negatively affecting their existing vehicle program by reducing production to divert some cell supply to new vehicle program like a Robovan.
Yeah. And so, how exactly did you describe the minibus or whatever that was in the master plan too? Do you remember it?
Yeah, I can pull that up real quick for you. Where's the quote? Okay. In addition to consumer vehicles, there are two other types of electric vehicle needed: heavy-duty trucks and high passenger density urban transport. So high
Okay.
passenger density urban transport.
So I mean, I think that's clearly what he's talking about. And then the
Hmm.
fact that it's a Robovan seems like that's when is the current timeline for the battery, or sorry, the AI day 2?
I think it's some September 30th.
So September 30th, that's I don't know, 2 or 3 months. It seems like a pretty good chance that we'll see what that is at that point. I'm only curious. Like, I think I wonder if it's going to have, a steering wheel, that kind of stuff, or if it's going to be one of those
No,
things. You
yeah,
don't think
there's
so?
no. I don't think there's gonna be any steering wheels
Okay.
because I think that the way I mean, in the case of the Robovan, I'm basing this more of the Robo Taxi dedicated vehicle that he's announced at Cyber Rodeo, and the fact that he says it's gonna be a dedicated like Robo Taxi vehicle, everything's gonna be designed around the vehicle driving itself. I think. But I get why you would think that something would be announced at AI Day because he keeps like saying the robo, like it's gonna drive itself and everything. It would make sense, but at the same time, he's been like even said that they delayed the whole AI Day not for those robo taxi vehicles programs, but for the Optimus, the humanoid robot. So I don't know. I think that's gonna be the
Well,
main
maybe
part of the
maybe
show.
Optimus will be driving the robotaxi.
oh, oh, you think you figured it out? I
Yep.
think you might have figured it out, Seth.
Yep.
Uh, all right. Speaking of things that you figured out, we also have a few things about the Tesla software update this week that we want to discuss. I'm going to jump to that and then go back up to the others. The scanning for potholes. Um, this is something that you brought. We talked about it recently, actually, but your first time you brought it up was, oh, isn't your tweet in there?
Oh, I put it in there and then I took it out.
Oh,
It didn't seem kind of like whatever.
okay.
Anyway,
But 2018 or something like that, if I remember correctly. This idea of because one of the main problem, and I know for me, I'm a big user of Autopilot. I use it a lot, and the only times that I have to take control for whatever reason, it would be phantom braking, which Tesla has yet to fix in those cars. Big problem, safety issue that Tesla really needs to fix. Sometimes the vehicle just slow down for no reason. Have to accelerate for it, take control. The other time is I live in Quebec. The roads are terrible. We have very tough winter. We have from below freezing, and then it's very hot. So it's terrible for the road. Also, a lot of corruption in construction that leads to people using like terrible asphalt and everything. But anyway, so we have a ton of potholes, and the autopilot will keep you in the lane. But if that means that you have to drive over a giant pothole and destroy your $4,500 wheels, they don't care. Autopilot doesn't care about that and does it. So that's one of my main thing. Well, actually, but I do like Autopilot for that too because it does remove some of the task that comes with driving, and you can pay more attention to the road and everything. And I do pay very good attention to the road and spot those potholes. And as soon as I spot, I take over from Autopilot. But now in the we're not quite about Autopilot just yet, though it does definitely use Autopilot features. But in the new 2022.20 software update that came out this week, Tesla, that's for the Model S and X because it specifically used the adaptive suspension. Tesla writes in the release note, Tesla adaptive suspension will now adjust ride height for an upcoming rough road section. This adjustment may occur at various locations, subject to availability, as Tesla vehicle downloads rough map data generated by Tesla vehicles. So this is the interesting part here. So it's not Autopilot getting to avoid these. It's the suspension trying to avoid any damage from them, which is good too. But the interesting part here is that it's the Tesla vehicle that are scanning the roads um, for what they call rough road section, which of course means like potholes and things like that. And they generate a map from that then other Tesla vehicles can use and not and try to avoid any damage with them with the Tesla suspension. The logical next step obviously is going to be to have Autopilot try to avoid those potholes in rough road sections when possible. We're not quite there yet, but if this is the obvious first step is to have that data that Tesla is now collecting. Of course, your other idea set is to use that data and then send it to the local authorities in charge of repairing those roads, and which of course they won't use. But your other idea on top of it was to like publish it online and kind of shame them, which I don't know, might work a little bit more.
I think it's bound to happen. Like I
Yeah.
think once you have that data, like where are all the potholes, and you have
Yeah.
a map of that, and you could publicize it, like why not? I feel like that's the ultimate outcome. By the way, this was on the back of me inventing the
Sentry mode.
century century, and then I have a new idea that I'm going to add on top of that, and that's
Mm.
making the frunk refrigeratable, because I think that's going to be a big thing for tailgating, groceries, etc. So
Who
that's
has that? Isn't there someone that has that though?
I talked to Rivian about it, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's a good idea," but they were probably
Yeah.
just
Oh
thinking
no,
nice
they're
things.
not. Okay, Ford is. You can put water in it, but like you can put like ice in it, and it's not refrigerable, but it's what's the word?
Yeah,
It's
you drain. It's waterproof.
yeah, it's waterproof. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
Rivian also has that, and I think somebody else was doing something like that with the front. But like, if you could make it refrigeratable and you have a refrigeratable compartment,
Hmm.
possible. And it's if you look at like DC refrigerated, you like coolers that you can put in your car and plug into your
Hmm.
lighter, it's like not that hard to figure out. And then you
No,
could have like a little button on your dashboard or on
turn
your
it off on
screen.
off. Yeah.
Yeah. So
All right. The other update that was interesting in the 2022.20 was the green light. The green traffic light chime is being expanded to other vehicles than just the one that have FSD package. So this is something that I've had in my car for a while since I have the FSD package, and it is quite useful. So what it does is, if you are at a red light and you're not paying attention, as people often do, and the light turned green, you have a little chime that lets you know inside the car, so that the people behind you don't start road raging and honking at you because you're not driving fast enough. And we've used it plenty of time for because once we are at the red light, it's literally the time where me and my girlfriend will start arguing about something, playfully, of course. I'm not beating her or anything like that, but we start arguing or something, and then there's like your green light is on, and like ching, the chime comes in. Like it's a lot more useful than I thought it would be. Uh, and now it's not just for people that paid $12,000 to get the
what's
FLZ.
funny is when I have that on the so we have it on the Model Y because we have the full self-driving
Yeah,
whatever. When I know that I have that, I feel more comfortable to go down and look at my phone. Be like, oh,
yeah,
I got a red light. I can check my phone, and I'll hear the bing, and I'll put the phone down and go. Um, but like when I'm not in the car that has that, I won't pick up the phone because I know I have to look at the light the whole time. So that'll give people an extra few seconds to check their emails and whatever.
yeah. Though be careful when doing that.
Yeah,
Just yesterday,
very careful.
I was driving, and I
Electrek
saw
doesn't
someone.
recommend.
I saw someone doing that at a red light in front of me, and a cop just pulled right next to them. And lucky enough, they didn't get any ticket or anything. But the cop was like, drop your phone right now. Even if you're at a red light, you can still get a ticket. Also, Tesla is doing it right, because I know that other people have introduced such features, and that has caused problem where you get used to it and you wait for that to come in because you're, again, not paying attention. But if you do that, like, you will do it even if you're a car in front of you. Tesla put that chime in on only if there's no car in front of you, or the car in front of you has started driving already, so that you're not like second in line and then it turns green and then boom, you start pressing on the accelerator and it's just rear
Oh,
end
right.
someone. This
Yeah.
is terrible because I I'm so used to that feature now that I start pressing on the accelerator as soon as I hear the chime, which is, I mean, I don't recommend that. You should always be looking forward, but I mean, I'm turning forward as I press it. Of course, like, I'm looking ahead, I'm not just pressing the accelerator without looking where I'm going. But there's a risk that comes with that. Now, the next step after that, which I would like Tesla to implement, is something that Audi has already implemented that is very cool. Is that you not only have a chime that lets you know once the line turned green, which Tesla only does based on his computer vision system, is that there's some cities now that you can connect to the internet through your car through their traffic light system, and it actually, as you reach a red light, it gives you a countdown for the green light. So you were talking about checking your emails and everything. Now you know exactly how much time you're gonna spend at that red light, so that you can actually do what you want to do in your car until then. So this is very cool. Obviously, it's only available in cities where they have that system that's available through, I assume, an API for automakers. So I know I've tried it when I tried the Audi e-tron back in the day in Northern California. when we arrived in Sacramento, Sacramento had that system, so we experienced it on some red light, and it was extremely useful. Also, it lets you know how much time you spend on red light. Sometimes, like you arrive at the red light and it says like 2 minutes. You're like, "What? You spend how much time red light sometimes?"
I know.
Yeah,
And it's even worse in places like Florida, and they have these like 7-lane like
yeah.
boulevards and stuff. It's just rough.
No, I drive to Montreal yesterday, and sometimes you have to a red light, a traffic light has to turn green 4 times before I can actually cross it because
Ugh,
there's that many cars there. All
crazy.
right, this is pretty cool. This is something that Tesla brought at another car show, at a technology show in Hanover, Germany. It's a trailer with deployable solar in it, so like kind of a range extender trailer here, with a Starlink, SpaceX Starlink dish on top. Sorry for internet connection. So it's kind of a one-off thing that they brought there. It's not. I don't think it's something that this is going to offer to customers anytime soon, but it's still pretty cool. I thought so, at least. And the I suggested people in the comment section to let us know if they would want such a thing, or if they what they would do with it. And people had plenty of idea for it, and they really wanted to be offered to customers, but I just don't see Tesla offering this anytime soon. But maybe a third party company, because there's I mean it would be
It's not
better for.
rocket science how
It's
to
not
make
rocket
one of these.
science, but there is some difficulties in terms, like, okay, Tesla, you cannot like drive when the car is plugged in, for
Right.
example. So you would need a way to override that, because you would need to actually plug that thing into the car as you drive, if you want to actually use it as a range extender as you're driving. If not, it's just something that you carry behind your car, and when you stop, you deploy it, and then you charge at the same time, which is still useful to a degree, but not as useful as like if you're actually carrying that. Of course, you don't deploy the side panels, but you still have what, probably 300 watt panel on this. You have almost a kilowatt just without being deployed.
Right.
That's a significant amount of power that you can get in as you're driving too.
Oh, I think it's actually, if you do, like, those are about 300 watts each, so there's 9 of them. So it's like 2.7
Yeah, one
kilowatts.
deploy, but I mean when it's not
Oh
deployed.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you got the battery in there, so
yeah,
I don't know honestly if it's going to even be positive, because you got the extra added
yeah.
weight
Wait,
and whatever.
but it's great for like emergency. Like you deploy that, you
Right.
can bring those. Like there's a natural disaster or something, you can bring those out, and it's a quick way to deploy the to have a power and internet in this case, because you also have the Starlink satellite dish on it. So it's very cool. All right, we have one more news item that I want to discuss before we jump into the comments. So I see that already. Like I know we are early today, so we don't have as many people watching live, unfortunately, because I need to get on the road this afternoon. So I'm sorry I had to push this a little bit sooner. But if you guys have any question right now, put them in the comment section. It can either be about what we discussed earlier today, or other topics that you want to discuss in the EV world this week. And we're gonna get to it after we discuss a tiny bit about Celine. It's kind of what do you call those? PSA, public
Yeah.
service announcement. Yeah, it's kind of a public service announcement, because Celine is back and is trying to raise money. And if and they are still using Tesla's name for it. They're still talking about modifying Tesla vehicles, which is, there's nothing wrong with that per se. But I feel for people in the industry that are not aware of the Celine story to date, it's a good to know before you ever if you receive one of those notices. Because this no, was it this, yeah, it was earlier this week, a bunch of people sent me this notice that Steve Saline has been selling to whatever kind of mailing list they got. People that are probably have shown some interest in a Tesla vehicle or electric vehicle or tuned vehicle, where they are soliciting like kind of a crowdfunding round to raise $20 million at 500 minimum investment of $500. And I was like, I have a long history with Celine myself, so I already, like, a red flag goes, okay, what's wrong with this time? Because the company is when they raise money, there's always something shady going on. And sure enough, this one didn't take me long to find. It was right there in the SEC notice. if you actually like follow through. Like if you click the link of the notice of investment, you get like this nice like investor presentation with all the sweet things and everything. But then you also always have the SEC link where you get the real official document that you have to look to, and right away you get investor in this offering will grant an irrevocable voting proxy to the company's CEO that will limit their ability to vote their share of common stock purchase in this offering until the occurrence of certain events specified in the proxy, none of which may ever occur. So this is basically telling you, like, if you buy shares in this company, you don't get a vote.
Zero guarantee.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that you're ever going to be able to get a vote. For now, the proxy goes to Steve Saline, that has complete control over the company, or at least complete control over your shares when it comes to voting for anything in the company. And if you don't know about the history of Saline, Saline back in the day used to be a pretty cool company. As a kid, I loved it. I was playing Forza, and my favorite car in Forza was the Saline S7, which was a great supercar for the time. Came out in 2000, 2001, 2002, something like that, and it was extremely powerful for the time. And of course, Saline was mostly known for tuning Mustangs with their superchargers, and they also have a body kit and look pretty cool. A lot of people love the look of the Saline. And Steve Saline himself was the CEO of the company. Before that, he was a great race car driver. But when it comes to business operation, from my sources that I've worked with him for years, not the greatest businessman. And to be fair, I mean, not a lot of people managed to survive in the auto industry during the 2008 2009 crisis, and he was one of them. The company was one of them, and they went bankrupt. And before that, they were quite big. Like they have a direct relationship with Ford. They were the one assembling and painting the Ford GT, another great supercar. But again, financial crisis, didn't survive. They tried to relaunch the brand in the early 2010s. They went public in 2013, but they went public like if there was a hierarchy of how you go public, like you go with an initial public offering on the Nasdaq or whatever exchange you're talking about, like this is like the prime way to go public. Then these days you have SPAC deals that are below that, and then you want to go even below those SPACs deal. You do a reverse merger on the OTC market. That is the bottom of the bottom. You have to, and to be fair, it doesn't mean that it's a scam. It doesn't mean that it's a shady company and everything. It's just a cheapest way to go public, but it's also the most expensive way in terms of like the percentage of the cash that you're gonna actually get to use for the company versus what everybody gets their grubby hands on, all the middlemen involved in there. And there were a lot of those when it comes to Saline. And so in 2013, they relaunched the company as like, hey, we're gonna go electric. It's like, oh, Tesla was starting to get some traction back then. They were going crazy in the on the stock market. 2014, 2015 started growing like crazy. So they're like, let's get some of that shine off. And they even claim to be in partnership with Tesla. I have an email here that I posted where they claim to be in full partnership in Tesla, and that their 416 Model S that they're gonna do is gonna be fully the warranty. Tesla is gonna honor the warranty and everything. Turned out to be a complete lie. We confirmed with Tesla that they had no relationship whatsoever with Saline, and the like their customers were buying the car and then sending them to Saline, and Saline would modify them. They had no idea what they were doing. I mean, Tesla had no idea what Saline was doing. And they started taking millions in customer deposit for the car, along from a few other cars that they were also tunings. And they had no cash. They were taking millions in customer deposit, but they were reporting having basically no cash on hand to the SEC, which means that they were literally using the deposits for their operation and not for actually making the cars that they were owed to customers, which is a shady business practice, in my opinion, in case you want to sue me. And I saw that,
which we should know that Celine did.
Saline eventually did, because what I did is I started reporting that to, especially back then I wasn't even working for Electrek. That was in 2014. That was before I linked up with Seth. And I started posting to the investor forum where they were promoting themselves, because Saline was, even though they had no money, they had money to promote their stock, but not their actual cars that they were selling. So they were promoting their stocks on these boards, and I was letting know my finding, because again, I didn't go into it as like, oh, screw Saline and everything like that. I go into it as like, oh, this could be cool. I remember Saline when I was back as a kid. It was awesome. Now they're going electric. But then I see that as a back then also I was taking courses in financial statements and how to interpret like financial filings and everything like that. So that was like a perfect way for me to apply that as looking into Saline's filings. So there was that was one of the problem, the way that they were handling their cash and their customer deposit coming in and going out through like salaries and very big salaries to Steve Saline and his daughter, like his whole family business. And then the other thing was the convertible note. The way that they were raising money back then was the shell company that brought it public. It was owned by a guy called David Weiner, who's specialized in that. He just financed company that have some traction, bring them public to a reverse merger with a shell company that he owns, and then gives them huge convertible notes, so millions of dollars in convertible notes, but that convert very quickly into extremely discounted shares, which dilute the stock immensely. And we create a situation that is prime for what we call a pump and dump, because a ton of shares become available to sell. And they get them super cheap, so they don't mind selling them cheaper than the market is right now, because they're going to make money off of them too. But doing that result in a big selling pressure on the stock, and the stock start to drop right now, and you need more investor to buy into the stock on the public market because there's so many shares to unload. So what you create is a situation where you want to prompt up the company with a lot of press releases and things that might or might not happen, and then just an average retail investor got interest in that company, buys the share that those big investors are starting to unload. So I was reporting that that's going to happen with the company, and that's when they sued me, saying that I was claiming it was a pump and dump, and I was claiming they had a concern with me, saying that the way they handle customer deposit is akin to a Ponzi scheme, which was completely first statement, because a Ponzi scheme takes investment from other investors to pay for existing investors, to pay for uh, the income of existing investors. And that's kind of what Saline was doing with the customer deposit back then. They would use customer deposit from a new customer to pay for the car of an older customer that they already spent the money of something else. So and again, I'm not saying that it is a Ponzi scheme, because it's a different model. It's not investment; it's actual products, but it is akin to it. I think that's a fair thing to say. And back then, I didn't have any money. I was like a 23-year-old, and they dropped a $30,000 lawsuit, 30,000 in lawyer's fee. So I went to 3 different law firms, and they all told me the same thing. It told me, like, look, you might be completely in the right, you might have the truth on your side and everything, but here's the truth: they paid this fancy firm in Montreal $30,000 to drop this Bible-sized lawsuit on you. And even if you're right and everything, I'm gonna need about $30,000 in terms of like all my associates and everything that is gonna work on this just to defend you. So they all said the same thing. It said, do what everybody does and settle, because they were going to offer me an injunction, which is mean I shut up about it, and then the suit doesn't go through. So after a lot of thinking about it and everything, I was like, all right, I'm not gonna ruin myself for this. And I was literally just doing it to like help people, like just know, like, be careful with this. You're gonna lose your money on it. And sure, I took the injunction, shut up about it, and Saline went to zero, and they got delisted, and people lost millions of dollars. So it was a real bummer for me. But now I'm rich. You want to sue me? Come at me. I'm gonna defend myself with the best lawyers I can find. Anyway, I don't think they can sue me, because here's a situation: they're trying to raise money again because they're completely broke. Based on the last finding, they have $14,000 in the bank right now, but they are still teasing a new Tesla vehicle tune, and their own also electric vehicle, because they were going to launch their own electric vehicle with a Chinese company 2019, but that went bankrupt within a year or two. So and Steve Saline went into an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, crying to the public that the Chinese stole his company and ruined him and everything, without any mention whatsoever that just 2 years prior he did the same thing with retail investors that the Chinese did to him. But that's what's bothering me right now. Like, people especially in the media, are still reporting Saline like this, like legendary hero. And to be fair, I don't know how Saline is involved into this himself. he might be just getting played by the toxic note holders like everybody else. He's just again, from what I hear from people that have worked directly with him, he's not extremely business savvy. He's like a car guy and like kind of the face of the company, but business wise, he has like not a great understanding of the financial markets and things like that. So he might be getting played too, but at the same time, he was getting paid like six-figure salaries while from those convertible notes, while retail investors were getting screwed. So be careful. Always do your own due diligence before investing. This is not any advertisement to invest or short the company. I don't even know if you can short that company, to be honest, because it's delisted on the SEC. I don't even know how you would do that. All right. Do we have a few questions to get into? I think so.
Yep. We'll skip over some of the
Mm.
ones we already addressed. And yeah, sorry, we're at a different time today. So Tom's Doan says, I have no problem with Alexa. It's one of the best assistants, but the lack of Android Auto and CarPlay are real showstoppers. This is in regard to Rivian. Yeah, I get that RJ and Co. don't want to give up their vehicle platform to Apple and Google. And Google and Apple have very big designs on the whole automotive field. So I get that that Rivian wants to be more like Tesla and kind of own the whole platform of the vehicle. And of course, today you can play any music or sound coming from your phone or hook up an iPad. And actually, that's what one of the people said. Well, you want CarPlay? Just get an iPad and stick it on the thing, and you can do whatever the heck you want. So, I get it, but like it would be a nice quick fix to just throw Android Auto and CarPlay on there. And they said hardware wise, we could do it tomorrow. We have the trucks have the capability to put CarPlay and Android Auto on there, but they want to own the platform. And their thought is if they do put Android Auto on there, you can't take it off. Like once it's on there and people are
People will
using
get
it,
mad.
yeah, exactly. So they're not going to put it on there unless there's like a revolt or they have to cut their development time or whatever.
So what you're saying basically is that like they know that they could use it right now because their own platform is not up on par with Android Auto CarPlay, but they do have the vision to have on par and then even better and within their own ecosystem and not having, so they don't want to lose people right now, so they know that like that's the logic behind it, I think.
Yeah, and they could go even in a third direction with their Amazon relationship. They could put the Amazon App Store on their directly on their device, kind of like a Kindle Fire tablet, which would allow them to do things like Skype or whatever. Not that that's a good idea for driving or not.
Google, can you get Google Map through the Amazon store?
I don't think you can. Google locks it into their own platform, but you can get third-party mapping. I think maybe Waze is owned by Google, but there's like maybe Nokia Maps or something.
But speaking of, how is the navigation, the native navigation of Rivian? Because that's the main thing, really, like that people use those servers for. Like they use Apple for either using Google Maps or Apple Maps, and Android Auto to use Google Maps.
So it's good. It's not great. It's not as good as Tesla, and it's definitely not as good as Google Maps.
Yeah.
Or I would even say I would rank them like Google Maps, Apple Maps, Tesla.
Oh yeah, I would put Tesla above Apple Maps. Yeah,
yeah. I think it depends on the area, but yeah, they're very similar, and sometimes Apple and you're right. I think Tesla's above Apple Maps, at least in my trust hierarchy. Like if I was, but I still
especially
think
these days. Like I don't get misled these days too much by Tesla.
Yeah, and sometimes it'll take me like not quite the fastest way, but it's pretty much the fastest way. So,
it's
whereas
quick to reroute too.
Right. And another thing I like about Google is like it gives you options. Like you can say, like as you're driving, it'll say you can go this way and lose 2 minutes, or you can go this way. Whereas Rivian, like when I was coming from Brooklyn to home, it was giving me like these kind of crazy directions. And I actually pulled out my iPhone and Google mapped the way home, and I had to do that. But the routes we took this week, and of course, Rivian was out here, mapping and made sure it was right. were perfect. They were like direct and the fastest way, and they were, more importantly, they were like very on top of where I was. So like if a right turn was coming, it was, it was shown and beforehand, and you would see it coming. Whereas before, last time I was in a Rivian, the the car would be still coming up on the right turn, and the right turn would be behind you. So it wasn't quite synced that way.
But I have that problem with Apple CarPlay too, though.
Yeah,
Maybe less so when I connect it directly with a USB port, but if I use it with the Bluetooth,
right.
it's not great.
Was that with the Mustang?
With the Mustang more recently, but the
Mhm.
Mustang I sort of fixed it just by using the
Cable.
provided USB-C cable. But yeah, in the other application where I don't have that option, it's not great.
All right.
There's a delay.
Yeah, and that those things I think are getting fixed.
Mhm.
All right, Newt Aoli. I wonder if that's the real word. Question: EU is implementing a new rule on all cars from 6th of July, so yesterday or day before, that they must have speed limiter and reduce effect on the car when it exceeds speed limit on road signs. Sounds crazy in the beginning of the end of manual driving. Uh,
Am I following this correctly? Like the car detects the speed limit and doesn't allow you to go over it or to go too much over it. This ooh
if that's the case, that's interesting.
yeah, that would be quite aggressive regulation.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's like recorded speed limits, like how Google
Hmm.
and Tesla know what the speed limits are without even the
Hmm.
camera sensing it,
Hmm.
or I wonder if it's just seeing in the camera. Crazy if true.
Yeah,
I don't think anything like that would happen in the U.S.
yeah.
They would
There'll be
blow up
some
the
revolt.
Capitol. Yeah,
Too many guns for that. Like
right. They would
that
just
that's
shoot
the reason they were waiting for. Like, so we overthrow the government over this one.
right. They'd shoot all the speed
Yeah.
limit signs. All right, Gakko Ponzi, new schedule, got a hot date. Yeah, where are you off to, Fred?
Just a family reunion this weekend, and I need to drive all the way up north for it. So
Cool.
it's gonna be a big drive.
All right. Praise. You make a great podcast with good balance between critical and positive views on the electric news, especially on Tesla, where most are fanboys or anti Tesla. Thank you. Both are tiresome, even in the electric friendly Norway.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
great Norway. We love Norway.
I actually want to go and just check out like the electric vehicle utopia, like not with any company or whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it would be fun. I went there just once for the Mercedes EQC, and just for 2 days. And yeah, I mean, as a when you're an EV nerd, like this is paradise. You're like, whoa, 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 there's electric vehicle everywhere.
yeah. Speaking of that, I'm going to Germany this weekend
Mm.
for Eurobike and then Mercedes drive. So for
Where
German
are you
fans,
leaving this weekend?
yeah, it's Sunday. Well, no,
Oh, okay.
I'm leaving for Montreal,
Yeah, okay. You're
and
still going
then
to Montreal.
right, and then next week I'll be in
Mm.
Frankfurt for Eurobike. Hopefully, some people are going there, and then we'll go to I think it's near Stuttgart. It's some weird mountain town. All right. Reflect the sun. I mean, U.S. does have a D plus infrastructure and massive flood events with heat domes destroying roads. They need to float too. I think we were talking about the pothole detection there.
Mm.
I am an FSD beta user too. My 3 has been missing potholes at random for months now, specifically moving in the lane and in one case crossing the yellow line to avoid a
Really?
really bad spot. Oh
I
wow.
don't know if that's. I mean, I'm not saying that you're lying to them, but sometimes like people like infer actions to a system, and and it's not actually what it's trying to do. I'm not saying that's the case here, but it's a possibility. But if that's true, that would be awesome. I feel like Tesla would have kind of reported that though, like they did for the suspension right there. So I would assume they would do it if it
Yeah,
with the
maybe they do
button.
some like early A/B testing or something.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, Reflect the Sun question: does Tesla make their own solar panels for their Gigafactory roofs? You would think so, but
No, not the
no.
solar panels. They have their own. I don't know if that's what they're using specifically on the Gigafactory roofs right now, but for their own residential installation, they do have a panel that they spec'd out with uh, a manufacturer, but they're not manufacturing them themselves.
Yeah, there was a Panasonic panel, right? and they were
No, I
making.
think the most recent one is H, Chinese company. It started with H.
Okay. At one point, there was a
Blanking.
Panasonic panel they were making in
Yeah, but that they
New
dropped
York
that pretty
Gigafactory.
quickly. Panasonic kind of backed out of that deal on Gigafactory New York.
All right. And I think this is our last question. Question: huge hail is falling all over Tornado Alley. Do you think Tesla has a plan to protect cars from the factory if it happened in Austin?
Oh, you mean the cars that are sitting outside? Yeah, that that would be a big bummer. You have brand new cars coming in the factory parked outside, and then boom, a hailstorm on it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what much they can do other than if they know it's coming, they don't. They put. I know there's kind of like a umbrella for cars thing that you can put, and that's good enough to protect from hail for hail. I don't know if I don't know if they can pull that out. We missed one from not Holly too. Here is there any truth to the rumors about a Plaid Model 3?
Oh yeah.
Uh, um, I've heard from a pretty good source that there's a new Model 3 performance rear wheel drive motor coming out.
Hmm.
Um, However, from what I'm hearing, it's like a 10% bump in performance, something like that. So not insignificant, but also not massive. Probably something enough to bring the multi performance around the 3 second mark instead of 3.2, something
Oh
like
yeah. They
that.
can't let the Rivian beat it.
Yeah, well, well, you also cannot beat the model like S either. So like
Right.
they have to find like a nice compromise. But I would be shocked if they do call it a Plaid. Like I think it's just going to be like a performance bomb to the Model 3 performance. Um,
Didn't Elon on Twitter one time? Somebody asked if there was going to be a Model 3 Plaid. Didn't he say something like, "No, the Plaid is only for S"?
Yeah, I think the
That's
Tesla Owners Club Silicon Valley on their like 2 hour long interview, that's when they asked him, and he was like he shut that down. So I think that's not gonna happen. But yeah, there might be a more performance Model 3 coming out, which might be where those rumors are coming from.
okay.
And then one last one from Turkey Neck too that just came out with further news about Tesla's pending opening of their supercharger network. Is there any word on CCS availability for Tesla owners in reciprocation? Will they offer an adapter for third? It got cut off.
Yeah, third party. Well,
Um,
they have an adapter. It's just in
mhm,
Korea right now, and there's ways to get one in the U.S.
yeah, um, yeah. I don't know. Like the way I see it play out for now is that Tesla is going to actually deploy new supercharger station with the CCS connector with it. So with regular Tesla connector and the CCS connector,
So like
because
the two cables like they had in Europe for a
yeah,
while.
like a dual cable that they had in Europe for a while. On new station where or on expansion on station where they can get those federal fundings because that you need that to get the federal funds. So for the new station, I think it would make sense and it would be the most efficient way to use those funds right now and to accelerate deployment. I think so. So for now, I think that's going to be the case. And then yeah, I think the logic thing to do is as you do that, you start introducing the CCS adapter in the US, and you allow your Tesla owners to use the CCS network, and maybe vice versa, a CCS to Tesla adapter for any other EV owners that want to use the supercharge network, and then that way you can open up all supercharging station or gradually like they were doing in Europe, whatever, to non-EV owners while getting that money to expand the network with those dual charger station. I think that's the logical step to do. Some version of that I think is extremely likely to happen within the next before the end of the year. That's what the thing in the White House came out. It kind of a weird way that the White House is the one like releasing the timeline for that to do that, but it also makes some sense because we know that they met with Elon in April to discuss how the supercharger, the supercharger, the federal funds for charging EV charging infrastructure is going to be rolled out. So Tesla got the information there, and then now is going to apply it to its supercharger strategy.
And then, what do you think long term? Do you think Tesla's going to move the U.S. just like Europe to CCS combo
I
superchargers?
mean, the very long term, that's what I think it makes sense. Like if the US completely adopts CCS standard and Europe did it before, and that's how Tesla responded in Europe. With that, I think that would be the logical step in the US. But it's a big thing to do, so I don't know. Like there could be other ways to handle it too.
right.
with
Adapters,
adapter
or
wise and dual
maybe
charger
there's even
wise.
like a an upgrade to the CCS combo, because it's very
Chunky.
big now. You don't
Yeah.
really need something that big. And
Yeah.
Tesla's is obviously way more elegant.
Mhm.
So
All right. Well, this was an hour 20 long show. And yesterday, a quick teaser for next week. Yesterday, I managed to was one of the first to test out the Taiga Orca electric jet ski, and it
so cool.
was a blast. I mean, these things are gonna be awesome. They're gonna sell like hotcakes. They are. You just need to try them, and then it's an easy sell. I did a quick video that I'm gonna put together. There's a news coming out soon, so I cannot divulge anything just yet, but I think it's going to come out within the next week or so. So I'm going to post that video and an article to follow with it uh, soon. So we're going to discuss that on the podcast next week, which should be back at the regular time. I'm going to be on the road again, but
Me too.
yeah, in set two. So we're gonna see what we can do. No, you're gonna be by that time. You're gonna still be in Germany. So actually, might be make more sense to do it sooner, right?
Yeah.
Rather than later. So yeah, it might not be at the same time actually, because we're both going to be on the road, so we're going to have to try to make that work. But next week we're going to discuss the Taiga Orca electric jet ski, awesome, and also anything else that happened in the EV world this week. If you're still listening to the show right now, we love you. You're awesome EV nerd like us. And thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for watching. If you can give yourself a thumbs up, a subscribe, a 5-star review on your podcast app, all those things help the show more than you know, and we appreciate it a lot. And we're going to